Welcome back to another episode of Deer Season 25. Fall is almost here, and that means it's time to get those green fields in. Between myself, Perry, and Forrest, we're planting in and around 50 acres of greenfield each and every year. We're gonna show you guys everything from what to plant, how, and when, and what's been working for us to keep those big bucks coming to our food plots all year long from start to finish. First things first, let's talk a little bit about seed blends. I have to go with deer radishes for number one. The attractability, the palatability of a deer radish is bar none. We always love that particular seed, that particular plant, for more of an early season type plot. We put it in here in early to mid-August, and that palatability by the time season hits October 1st is just through the roof. We always go with 9-10 pounds to the acre. They're good through about the second week of November. Once those bucks get in that rut pattern, they kind of leave all the food, and by the time they come back to food, usually the radishes are either all gone or rotted and not as palatable to them. So for an early season type plant, get that big buck down early in the season, I would go with deer radishes. If you're looking for more of like a late season type green field, it's sugar beets from Biologic. Late season, they are money. Whenever they come off the rut, they get back on that green food source in early December. Those bulbs get real big. Same as deer radishes, we always like to plant those second week of August. By the time season gets here, they're palatable. In this instance, it's more of the tops of the bulbs that they eat more early season, and then they save those big bulbs once the sugar content gets up after they frost. That late season transfer back to green is just unbelievable if you're trying to get a deer within bow range in the late season. And our third, last but not least, favorite food plot seed would probably have to be Green Patch Plus. It's a great seed to start a new clover field for the following year. We always add about a half rate of clover to the clovers that are already in there, so you get a nice thick carpet of clover come up that next spring. It's also a great plot for those smaller interior plots because it has cereal grains in it. So those smaller plots where the deer density might be a little bit higher, where those deer feel more comfortable coming out during daylight, they tend to eat it a little heavier, and it has those cereal grains in it, so it keeps that regrowth growing. You always have a beautiful green patch to hunt over. Those are probably our top 3 favorite blends to plant from Biologic. We also use other types of blends through Biologic, but those are our favorite. They have countless other blends of seeds, so go check them out at plantbiologic.com. Anywhere in the region, Biologic has you covered on what seed to plant.
Well, we've had some really good luck with those blends over the years. And to really get those results you're looking for, there's 3 factors that really come into play. The timing of when you plant, making sure your soil's in good shape, your soil fertility, as well as your seed bed prep. So the first thing we want to talk about is the timing of when you plant. If you plant too early, your plants might get a little too big. They're not going to be tender. The deer aren't going to be eating them quite as good. The palatability just isn't going to be there. If you plant them too late, you're going to get that first frost and you could potentially kill your food plot. So typically what we're shooting for here in the Midwest is 45 to 60 days before that first frost. So that typically puts us planting there the first week of August to mid-August. And we always plant our brassicas and our bulb plots a little bit earlier to give those plants a little bit more time to develop. You might shoot for that 60-day mark if you're looking for a little bit bigger bulb, if that's going to be your late season plot. If you're going to be hunting over them a little bit earlier, you may shoot for right around that 45-day mark, so you get the leaf, but you don't get quite as big a bulb. And then those plots, if you're planting a clover plot in the fall, or oats, wheat, something like Biologic Green Patch Plus or Last Bite, typically we shoot a little bit later in August or even early September with those. They don't take quite as long to germinate and grow, so you can get away with planting those a little bit later on in the fall. Okay, so you got your timing down. Your soil fertility is going to be very important. You want your pH somewhere in that 6.0 to 7.0. That's pretty neutral. That's where your plants are going to uptake the nutrients as good as possible. So if your pH is out of whack, you want to get that fixed first before you try to go and plant your food plots. The process of actually planting the seed, there's 2 different ways you can go about this. One way you can no-till drill your fall plots, and then the other way is to work your soil. We do both methods depending on the field and depending on what seeds we're planting. For both methods, go in a week or 2 prior to, do a burn down spray, kill all those weeds really good, make sure they're all dead. And then typically we like to go and cultipack it or drag it broadcast the seed on top, and then cultipack it or drag it again. That's gonna give you really, really good seed to soil contact. The second method, if you have a drill available to you, you can just put your seed in the drill, get it calibrated, and go in and drill right through those weeds. You don't have to work the soil up. It's gonna help you reduce erosion a little bit. We've had really, really good luck with both of those methods. It just kind of depends on what you have at your disposal and what's gonna be easiest for you to do. One little added tip, we always try to plant right before rain. If we can go in and plant, I mean, we'll go in sometimes in the middle of the night and plant a plot right before that rain. It's gonna get your seeds off to a big jump start, and it's gonna reduce your seed loss. I mean, you got birds. If you get a really, really big rain, sometimes it can wash them away, but typically that doesn't happen if your seed bed is properly prepared. When you're actually planting your plot, you don't want to go too deep with your seed. I mean, a lot of these biologic mixes, those seeds are really, really tiny, and they're recommended to not plant them deeper than 1/4 of an inch. Typically, what we've always gone by is the depth of the seed. You don't want them more than double that going down. So for those little teeny tiny clover and brassica seeds, you want them to be up really, really close to the surface of the soil. And then in some of those mixes, such as Green Patch Plus or Last Bite, they have a little bit bigger seeds. Some of those oats in there or wheat, they can be buried a little bit deeper, but you just don't want to get them too deep because that plant's going to have to expend a lot of energy to break out and get out of the soil and start growing.
All right, so now that we've talked about seed choices for food plots, we've talked about prep work for food plots, we're now gonna talk about mistakes made. You know, no matter how good of a food plotter you are, there's still mistakes made out there. We've all done it, and we'll probably do it again. I think the biggest mistake and number one people out there food plotting make is soil health. You take this great food plot seed, but nothing happens or nothing grows very well because your soil health is bad and you might have a bad pH, if you will. It's either acidic or very basic, so you gotta be in the middle. A lot of those things in soil health have to be adjusted with organic matter, what you're leaving in the soil and giving back to it, and also NPK, which is fertilizer, and also lime. We use pelletized lime. You can use ag lime and put it on in the winter. Your lime really determines your pH, and whether your soil is basic or acidic can also determine how palatable it is to the deer. So that lime can be a huge, huge key factor in your soil test, which your Nutrient Ag Solutions folks will help you out with. That can really determine how palatable and how good of growth you're gonna get out of that food plot, and lime can be a huge, huge factor. Another mistake I think a lot of food plotters make when they're planting a food plot is possibly get that seed a little too deep. You know, you can go either side of the spectrum. You can go too deep or too shallow. Your seed might be sitting on top of the soil with not enough contact, and you can be on the other side where you're too deep. And especially if you get a rain, that can make your seed be even deeper, and it's gonna affect your germination rate and just gonna overall hurt your plot in the long run. So you want that specific depth of the seed for what seed you're planting. You don't want to be too shallow and you don't want to be too deep. You know, if we're sitting here talking about mistakes while planting food plots, and we all get antsy, we all want to get the food plot in the ground, we all want to see the growth, and we all want to kill big deer over it. But I think a lot of people overlook palatability of that food plot. A lot of people are putting cameras out, shooting your bows, you're like, I gotta get my food plot in the ground. And in some cases and in some parts of the US, you could put a food plot in right now and be very successful. I think that you need to wait and be patient and allow that food plot to hit a growth period to where once it's mature, it's going to be the most palatable for the deer. I think a lot of people plant early and a lot of plants get too big. Your radishes, your turnips, whatever it might be that you're planting, they get so large and so stemmy and stiff that the deer don't like them as much as they would if they were a younger, more palatable plant. I think another big thing when people are planting food plots on their farms is to think about when you hunt the most. Are you a die-hard rifle hunter? Are you a die-hard bow hunter? Do you bow hunt early season more than late? And when you think about that, you need to think about what seed you're gonna plant in your food plot. You know, you have to think about your food plot mixes or food plot seed that you're planting for the time of year that you're going to be hunting.
The three key factors stay the same year after year. Those three key factors that we live by: choose the right biologic blend for your property, know exactly what and when to plant, make sure you have a great seed bed, make sure you prep it right, everything's right, your soil conditions are right, your fertilizer's correct, and last but not least is that plant date. Always make sure those plants are nice and palatable when season starts so you could jump in that stand and have success right off the bat. This year is a little bit different in a good way from what we've done in years past. Usually we're trying to get our green fields in that first week of August. This year we're gonna wait a little bit later due to all the moisture we've had. We've had anywhere from 1 inch to 2 inches a week, so lots of ground moisture, and we want those plants to be nice and young when season rolls around. We don't want them to grow beyond palatability, so we're gonna wait and push it off till about the 15th through the 20th of August. Get there a little bit later in August and make sure those plants are young and not beyond palatability come season. So if you got any questions, drop them in the comments. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe and follow along with the rest of deer season 25. The best is still ahead of us with season right around the corner. We're gonna be dropping you in the now footage every single week.
We're adding new videos every week, so make sure to click that subscribe button and check out all of our amazing content. This episode of DoD TV was brought to you by Leupold.